Webinar on education, the series. Did I start early? Hello and welcome to this webinar on education. We do this every Saturday at the Hindu between 5 and 6:30. Today we have a topic that deals with an MBA aspect. We In the past, a typical MBA specialization would be marketing, finance, operations, and so on. There were these three, four things that would apply across the board to all companies. Somebody selling toothpaste could probably sell television also in another company. That was the thinking then. But as industry has evolved and very specialized professions, niches have evolved, there have been more MBA programs suited to those particular professions, very specialized professions. We are seeing MBA in sustainability. We are seeing MBA in healthcare management. We are seeing MBA in various other very specialized courses, and so there's this question of how much domain knowledge would be required from these MBAs to manage those companies and to manage those professionals, and how much not just domain knowledge, but also you're dealing with professionals who are equally committed, passionate, who know their job, who have been managing their businesses and companies. Now you have an MBA coming in and telling them what to do, how they should do things. So there's this mismatch, or I wouldn't call it a mismatch. There's this interesting dynamic that I can foresee happening. So how are MBA programs dealing with these two things? How many more specialized MBA courses are we going to see? I believe it's a trend. Our faculty, our panelists are going to tell us much more about it. Those who are tuning in, please feel free to ask questions. The best questions will get free access to the Hindu website. It's a treasure trove of information. It has you name it, all the archives. You get subscription to other publications, Frontline, Sportstar, and so on. So welcome everybody. I start with Professor Pankaj Priya. He is the Deputy Director and Dean Academics of BIMTech. So tell us more about specialized MBA programs across and in your own institution. What is the content of the curriculum? What do you tell those students when they go out in the field and manage those professions?
Thank you, Mr. Kalyan Raman. And at BIMTech, we have specialized programs. For example, apart from the general PGDM that we run, we have sectoral specific programs. For example, PGDM in retail management, PGDM in insurance management. Now, these are specific to a particular sector. And hence, in order to ensure that our students are well versed in handling those retailers who have been on the shop floor for the last 20, 15 years of their life, we ask them to indulge in what we call an on-job training for full 1 month, where we send them to various retail stores and work with those shop floor personals to actually learn the nitty-gritties of how to manage day-to-day affairs and the retailer's life, understanding what is a retailer's life is all about. So that is what we do with our retail program. Similarly, with our insurance program, we ensure that our students are ensured that they shadow some of the insurance professionals to see and spend a day with them to see what is a life of an insurer, not only from the as a marketer who is selling insurance policies, but also as the actuarials at the background who are working on devising new policies and the premium structure and the various nitty-gritties of insurance compliances issues. So this is how we try to give initial exposure to our students. Apart from that, what we do is that we send them for what we call real life case studies, where they spend again, pick up a problem with small SMEs and understand what are the pain points of SMEs to understand why they are not able to perform. Now, many of the, if you know that in the retail sector, most of the retailers are in the unorganized sector. So, with these unorganized sectors, sustainability becomes a major issue, and that too with the advent of the modern retail. So, to spend 2 days, 3 days with them to understand their pain points and then suggest themselves some solutions on how to improve their business. So this is what we do. Now what happens is, in this process, the student learn to empathize and actually understand that what goes in the mind of that particular retailer or that insurer at the time they are interacting with a customer or in their day to day operations. So all these issues are the ways that we are following to ensure that students get a hands-on exposure to the professionals in these particular areas.
Excellent, sir. Interesting point about insurance. Actuarial science is pretty involved, and it's pretty deep, and it requires a lot of some brilliant people become actuarians. So how do you, and they know in insurance, they understand insurance in and out. How do you, so what do you tell them? So how do you manage, how these management professionals are supposed to manage those? We'll come back to that interesting point. I ask Professor Deepa Sethi. She's the executive chair IIMK Globe. She'll tell us what's Globe. Tell us more. What is your take on this topic?
Okay, so thank you for inviting me. I'm Professor Deepa. I am Kozhikode, Executive Chair of Global Linkages, Outreach, Branding and Evaluation. Um, the MBA toolkit is powerful until it meets a profession with non-negotiables. This conversation, how MBAs should be taught to manage other professions, matters more than ever today, because organizations are no longer led by a single discipline, as my colleague just now shared. They are led at the intersection, and MBAs working alongside doctors, designers, educators, lawyers, researchers, and frontline teams. And much of what we label as organizational friction today is not a competence problem, it is a professional logic issue. Every profession carries its own definition of good work. Doctors might prioritize safety and outcomes. Engineers' good work might be reliability and constraints. Lawyers might prioritize compliance. Designers, user experience. MBAs are trained in strategy, economics, cost, scale, and time. None of these perspectives is wrong. The problem begins when one logic dominates and the others are treated as barriers rather than expertise. So the real question is not whether MBAs can manage professionals, it is whether we are teaching MBAs to lead expertise or to override it. Managing professionals is not the same as managing tasks. In high stakes, regulated environments, healthcare, infrastructure, finance, academia, pressure without understanding does not create speed, it creates risk. And that is why MBA education must produce integrators. We should produce system builders. What does an integrator do? An integrator connects business goals with professional standards, align people around shared outcomes, and uses a common language across disciplines. Not how to tell experts what to do, but what are your non negotiables? Where is the real risk? And what does quality mean for you? What evidence would change our decision? Whereas a system builder designs the conditions for professionals to succeed: clear decision rights, robust processes, fair incentives, and a steady cadence of collaboration without micromanaging the entire thing. So, if I had to summarize my position in one line, it would be MBA education must teach professional humility with managerial accountability. The humility to say, I don't do your job, and the accountability to say, but I do own outcomes, alignment, and trade offs. So I'm looking forward to sharing a few practical shifts to make this real in MBA classrooms, MBA curriculum, through immersion, simulations, apprenticeship, shadowing, decision tools, and ethics, not just as the backbone of judgment, not just as a chapter and a course, but the life blood of every organization, every existence. And I'll close this opening thought by quoting Aristotle: "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." I unquote. That is the MBA's real task today, making different kinds of expertise add up to outcomes.
Very, very succinctly put. You were saying before that journalists have a way of saying things, catching the essence. You did it much better than any journalist could. Very important point about what the priorities of each profession is and how, and they're not necessarily business oriented. They're not looking at the bottom line, the lawyers, the doctors, or whoever. Their priorities are different, but how does an MBA's priority and merge with these? And that's a challenge. And very interesting point that the MBA should work at those gaps, those where things intersect. So they have to do a little bit of a balancing between these things. Very interesting. We'll come back to it perhaps when we look at perhaps we can look at some case studies, some real life situations. How do you deal with them? There's more coming. I now ask Professor Venkat, he calls him the Venkataramanaya, right? Is that
Yeah.
Professor Venkataramanaya is the chairperson of admissions at IIM Lucknow. Sir, tell us, you're probably dealing with freshers all the time, and when they register for such specialized courses, MBAs, what do you tell them? What are they looking at? What do you offer? And when they go out, what are they capable of doing?
Okay, right. So very interesting question. Let me just share my views or experience at IIM system. In fact, some of you may be aware that IIM Indore was the pioneer in offering a 5-year integrated program way back in 2011. And that was handled by me a long time back. And today I'm handling the last few years executive MBA 2 types, and executive PhD. If we really look at what is this, while bringing this cohort to the IIM system in particular, is completely different. Is regular MBA, for example, MBAs who are coming, 2-year MBA who are coming for, through CAT with 1 or 2 or 3 years of experience, including freshers. What do you expect from them is different from the other programs like executive programs, etc. But in substance, what is an MBA according to me? It's a course for transformation. It's a transformation in two sense. That is, one is in a personal level, another one is in professional dimension. So the classroom dynamics have changed a lot over a period of time. I'll just quote here. COVID-19 has challenged the entire world. The way we are doing business, the way we are doing teaching, the way we are managing our personal life as well. So during that time, I end up writing a small article along with my student. Is COVID a prescription for change? So I would say MBA education before COVID and after COVID is completely different. And today what we are looking at is, in fact, sectoral MBAs demand is increasing because the country like India is growing in all sectors. We need people who can manage these sectoral specific businesses. For example, at IIM Lucknow, I've been teaching this course on healthcare management. And of course, we will be launching a healthcare MBA very soon, a collaborative program. So if you see, the certain models is all about, how do you customize to a given context or a situation. Like, for example, if you talk about supply chain management in retail industry, supply chain management in automobile sector, supply management in white goods or other consumables, etc., is completely different from that of healthcare supply chain. So we need to bring in such kind of perspectives. And of course, what we do at IIM Lucknow is that we work closely with the domain expertise. For example, people from public health, from the government department, as well as large hospitals like public and private systems. So that these children or the students who are graduating from, even these premier institutions, they know how well they can prepare to these requirements. So And similarly, the another important thing for us is also executive PhD in management. And again, in that, the sectoral specific things. So in the context of the research program, the requirements of a research program in management in respect to areas are also very, very different. So these institutions have to be very, very responsive and agile in terms of our learning systems and including the credit system, etc., etc. That's what you could see. The national education policy is emphasizing on that. This education should be flexible enough, and they are revamping in almost in every sector, as you could see. So, in my view, both the institutions and the aspiring candidates or applicants have to keep this in mind and prepare well and take it forward to the next level. So, I'll stop here at this stage. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for those valuable inputs. I now ask Saji Matthews, the professor, head of management studies at IIT Madras. You sit at a place which churns out some of the best engineers. How do you look at this, sir?
Yeah, thank you, the Hindu, for this opportunity. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you. I think we have a very, very important question today to discuss. I appreciate you for having brought this question up, because we need to appreciate the fact that MBAs need to go out and manage organizations in operating in certain sectors. And so basically business has two aspects. One is the function, other is the domain. So essentially all schools, all MBA programs typically covers the functional knowledge, particularly in the first year of an MBA. The core courses actually covers from marketing, finance, HR, operations and information systems and so on. So they learn core functions of business in the classroom. But as you rightly point out through this question, what they don't learn in that depth is the domains, business domains or sectors, like the hospitality or healthcare or insurance, finance, banking. There are so many subsectors, broadly manufacturing and services, where specific sectoral knowledge is not imparted through the curriculum of an MBA. But when I look at this, this is more of a systemic problem, or it's a problem of our structure, the way the institutions are structured in our country. This question may be less relevant in Western institutions due to two reasons. Number one, generally, a business school is part of a university in the West. You look at Harvard Business School, which is a part of the Harvard University. A Wharton School is part of UPenn. And the idea of a management institute standing alone without other streams of knowledge surrounding them makes learning less effective, in my opinion. And that is the reason why the world has embraced university as the model, not standalone institutions as the model. But for some reason, in India, institutes of management separately developed. And of course, where do our MBAs learn law? Where do they learn, say, healthcare systems? Okay? If they are functioning, if they are learning in a university, there is a lot of cross-breeding among the departments. I did my postdoc in Emory University Business School, Goiseta Business School. So there is a Emory Medical School, just adjacent to the business school, or there is a law school just next to it, or there is a school of music next to it. So you actually learn in a system which is comprising of a lot of domains right there. So that itself gives you an opportunity. Unfortunately, we don't have that. There is no point. We can't change the structure so easily. But I would say IIT system, the management department, actually our department is a part of 18 departments of IIT Madras. So slightly better, because we are developing as a university system than as an engineering school. Of course, we started as an engineering school in 1959, but over the years, humanities and social sciences, management, and soon we will have a medical college. So that actually helps in making learning much more effective for MBAs as well. Not only for engineers but for everyone. So this is one aspect. The other drawback of our system is that MBAs generally, unlike Master of Management program in the West, MBA is considered as a post-experience program. It is not meant for freshers. It is those who have worked in the industry for some time, say 4 years or more. They come back to do a program which will enhance their management competence. Someone coming and doing a management MBA program, Master of Business Administration program, having not seen and worked in an organization, is a lot of imagination. They don't understand what is management. The way actually we in Indian schools, as I understand, we sort of compensate. This is we also admit a lot of students with experience. Now, what happens in a classroom is the classroom consists of students with experience in multiple sectors. Say somebody worked in the IT sector, somebody worked in manufacturing, somebody else worked in uh, FMCG. So we have students bringing sectoral knowledge into the classroom, and we all agree that they learn more from peers than from teachers, right? It's a peer learning which is the key in MBA, and that is much more effective when we have a lot of students having work experience. So, and I think we have been increasing our proportion of students with work experience. Majority of our students are having work experience now, so that actually further helps in imparting some sectoral knowledge in 2 years time while they work in groups. In particular, I will share a couple of initiatives we have done to address this problem of domain knowledge when they go out. We started a quantitative finance program, which is a master program for students, BTech students of IIT. They can actually join our department, and they can add 1 year of management education to get a master's with management specialization. So this is specialized in finance, particularly the quantitative finance. So what we do is we get practicing managers from the industry. They offer a full course, wherein when they go out to work, they already know, say for example, investment banking. One of the leading firms in investment banking offer a full program as part of this, not offer a full course as part of this program. So this is a sort of industry participation in a program, so that industry can identify good students, and also they have to spend less time training them on a particular sector when they recruit students. So this is one model we follow. Of course, the other let me close this. I'm taking a lot of time, but one advantage we again have is our online platform, the NPTEL platform. So there we offer a lot of courses particularly suitable for tech industry. So and that is something which students can always come back and learn, or uh, learn while they all that is possible. Thanks to the platform, which offers not only courses now, but also um, full programs. We have program online BS program on data science. We have just started online BS program in management and data science. So in future, of course, this doesn't address the problem of sectoral knowledge, but we will come back with program. We will offer programs which also imparts, say, sectoral knowledge, which students can learn or executives can learn while they earn. That will be the future mode of education, where bringing students back to campus is difficult, but we have to take the campus to them where they sit. So the online mode would be a sort of method to address the problem of domain knowledge in future. So these are my few words to start. I know there is much more to add to this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Professor Matthew said he's going to talk. It won't take much time, but he just blew the discussion open. Thank you so much. Very interesting points. I don't know if the IIM folks want to pick bones with him. He said,
No problem.
but it's a very interesting point. In the US, for instance, all these management institutions, big management programs are associated, are part of universities, which teach many, many things. Harvard, Columbia, or all this, as you said, Wharton, it's part of UPenn. So UPenn is this big ecosystem. Harvard, certainly. But in India, very specialized management schools have sprung up, have grown, they have much stature. But is that an issue when you come to impart domain knowledge, when you come to teach specialized MBA courses? Is that a problem? I'm asking. I am folks here.
Okay, I would
Others.
like to take this. So I'm now going to extend what I said earlier to the future of MBA itself, because we have been talking of what MBA has been, what it is now. It's more ideal to talk about where we are headed to. Because the question of how MBAs manage other professions is also ultimately a question of whether the MBA remains credible as a qualification for consequential work. So there are a few things that I would like to highlight here. Especially, again, I believe the 1 year MBA will not only stay, it will become a default for candidates who already have professional grounding. And as Professor Saji said, yes, need a fast, high intensity upgrade in strategy, market, finance, etc. Specialized MBAs will also remain strong because organizations increasingly hire for specific operating context, like healthcare management. It is not the same as product management. Sustainability is not the same as private equity. Public policy is not the same as consumer brand building. So the demand for domain literacy is rising, and we are very well aware of this. Where the MBA risks losing its sheen is the generic version, the one that produces managers with high confidence but low professional sensitivity. So, if we continue graduating people who can speak in frameworks but cannot recognize professional standards, risk thresholds, or ethical boundary conditions, those graduates may remain employable, but they will not be trusted with high stakes decisions. And in regulated, safety critical, and reputation sensitive sectors, trust is the real currency. So I'm not convinced the traditional 2 year MBA in its conventional form will remain dominant everywhere. It will continue for certain markets and profiles, but the broader model will be under pressure. Not because shorter is better, but because the value of time has changed. And now that industries are shifting this quickly, AI reshaping work, regulation tightening, stakeholder scrutiny rising, 2 years of generalized management language without deep sensitization to professional contexts can feel like lag, not leverage. And employers will increasingly ask a sharper question. What did the MBA teach you that makes you safer, sharper, and more credible at the intersection of disciplines? And that is where our students will get stuck. So the future MBA has to become less about generic management confidence and more about professional integrative competence. And that means training MBAs to lead across disciplines without flattening them, how to run decisions that respect evidence standards, how to set decision rights without creating bureaucracy, how to manage trade offs without degrading craft, and how to communicate urgency without manufacturing risk, how to treat ethics as the backbone of judgment, not a standalone module. So, if business schools make that shift, the MBA remains valuable, perhaps even more so because organizations desperately need people who can integrate expertise at scale. If they do not, market will root around the generic MBA. Though I mean that generic MBA through specialized masters, faculty, industry-led credentials, internships, trainings, and product and operations, internal tracks that privilege domain credibility over managerial vocabulary. So, in other words, MBA's future will not be decided by brand name and duration. It will be decided by one question. Does it produce people who can deliver outcomes while protecting professional standards? If yes, MBA evolves. If no, the generic MBA gradually becomes a signal of ambition rather than a signal of readiness. And that is precisely where IIMK introduced many new things on the forefront, starting with PGP-LSM, that is the MBA in Liberal Studies and Management, where there is there is a brilliant amalgamation of liberal studies courses and management. So while students are studying the regular management courses like finance and marketing and organization behavior and strategy, they are also looking at courses like in psychology, sociology, political science, literature, and they are trying to find out how these can come together to activate the inborn empathy rather than learn empathy in books. The second thing that we did was the bachelor's in management science. Yes, the integrated program, 5-year programs were there. There were other IIMs and IITs coming up with a graduate program, and IMK, known for its innovative thought process and ever evolving progressive outlook, thought, why not bachelor's of management science, 3 years plus fourth year would be an honors. That so we take 3 years BMS, and then it becomes 3 years of plus one, that is the BMS honors. So again, the core subjects of management will be there, but the specialization, that the minors will be from AI and ML, so we remain relevant, public policy, psychology, and honors with research track. So yes, if innovation is not your key, you will soon be irrelevant. I take a pause here.
Wow. So Professor Deepa is saying the traditional MBA, high-sounding, confident leader who can use a lot of jargon, who knows how to play organizations, but who doesn't have the domain knowledge and doesn't have the ability to work, as you said, in those interstices, in those gray areas, and take things forward is probably out of. Is probably going to be a dinosaur very soon. Very interesting point. Will someone want to add to that, Professor Pankaj Priya or Professor Venkat? Saji, yes, of course, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead, all of you.
Yeah, Professor Venkat, you want to go ahead?
No, please go ahead. I'll add later. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate Professor Deepa's points, but I slightly disagree as well. The general management or the general MBA program, when we did a recent benchmarking of what other business schools, leading schools in India and abroad offered, we did see that general management program or general MBA program is still prevalent. But what is being done is that in order to also impart some specialization based on students' interest, when they pass out, institutions or business schools introduce some micro specialization in the second year, which could be functional. Someone could specialize, say, in marketing by taking a lot of electives in marketing and doing a summer internship in marketing related projects. So they get some sort of specialization, which is their own. We don't state that in the degree, but it is something which they acquire. Similarly, sectoral specializations called, which we are also introducing, known as micro specialization. So, for example, students could take 4 or 5 electives related to sustainability, and then we will certify that they have a general management MBA, but they have a micro specialization in sustainability. So these are innovations that are being explored by institutions to address the need for giving some specialization while they actually have a degree of a generalist. But where I disagree is being a generalist is not bad. This is, of course, a trade-off. You can, of course, have an MBA in healthcare management. Obviously, what happens is you are overfitting into a particular domain, and you are not that fit for other sectors of business, but you are very specialized. You have overfitting into this. You have this bias variance trade-off, which we discuss in data science, where when you are too flexible, or too specialized, then you are overfitting and then you are not suitable for other sectors. Whereas a general management MBA gives flexibility to students to sort of go across sectors and gain much wider experience potentially. But this is of course a trade-off whether you want to be a specialist or a generalist. Okay, both has its own pluses and minuses. That is the point I wanted to drive.
Yes, I agree with both the panel members. One side Deepa and the other side Saji. One size does not fit all. This is well known. And one type of MBA or management education will not fit for the industry. Particularly, industry is not one. The healthcare, for example, even within healthcare, if you look at a corporate hospital way of managing versus a locally grown or organically grown. For example, if you look at the management skills that is required for a organization like Arvind Eye Hospital may not fit into the for-profit organizations. So not-for-profit organizations, the objectives are different. When you manage as a manager or as an MBA, in those organizations, it's very different. So over a period of time, I would say in MBA should be a broad-based antibiotic kind of thing. You need a knowledge about the multiple areas. It's like an administrator in civil services, civil administrator. Today you may be in finance sector, and tomorrow you may be in the education sector, something like that. As you are required, you may have to shift your portfolio of activities from one portfolio to another portfolio. It should be flexible enough, and you should also have a depth of knowledge in that domain. That is very important. This is possible over a period of time. So MBA is not a one-time degree. You take a degree and forget about it. It's not like that. So there are successful people, if you see, they have done multiple MBAs, multiple specializations at different points in time. So being a management institutions, are we prepared for that? Industry needs. We should be able to provide such kind of thing, maybe through some of the programs that we are doing, etc. But we have to improve the quality of these programs that we are offering. That is my point. I'll stop here.
You wanted to say something, sir, Professor Pankaj Priya?
Actually, sir, we have in our institution, we have the general course, as Professor Saji was saying. Apart from that, as I said, we also have sectoral courses. Now, our experience has been, that is the feedback that we got from our recruiters, is that students from the general courses, when they joined retail or an insurance sector, they did not last for long because they had not gone there with that mindset. But a student who was a part of that program, that is doing a PGDM in retail or insurance, from day one they are very clear. They come with a mindset that they have to make a career in this particular domain, and that's why they try to imbibe all the basic requirements, knowledge and skills of that domain, so that tomorrow when they are supposed to manage those professionals in those domains, they are aware about how things operate in that particular sector. Whereas the students from the general programs, who even if they join for whatever reasons in the insurance or retail sector, they do not last for long. So the recruiters have started coming back and telling us that please give us the list of students who are into the focused only on retail or insurance. And even in their pre-placement talk, they clearly tell them that if you are inclined to work in this sector and make a career over here, then only you apply, otherwise you don't apply. So it's that domain knowledge, that mindset has to be there in the students, then only they should be able to move ahead in that particular domain as well.
Interesting
I,
point, sir. Yes, go ahead.
I would like to add here.
Yeah, sure.
So, as I said earlier, and I reiterate, I said 2-year MBAs will survive only if they evolve. The generic MBAs cannot be taught the way they have been taught in the past and in the moment. We need to move a little ahead if we are to offer both specialized and general MBAs. Where is it that we are headed to? Are we just okay in having a few projects done in the field in over a period of 2 years, maybe twice for a month? Or are we saying that we also give them something on the field where, despite doing a general MBA, they are able to understand the nuances? So there are three things which need to be replaced in the current MBA approach, specifically if we are to remain relevant. And I'm talking about the Indian context. First, we need to move from the classroom defined management to training MBAs to show up, especially under pressure. In real organizations, trust is built less through articulation and more through presence, particularly during crisis and high stakes moments. When a manager shows up early, stays visible, doing work, asks grounded questions, and coordinates calmly, it reduces rumors, limits speculation, signals leverage even before the issue is fully resolved. So, in tense moments, the most important KPI is, are you in the room? And MBA students, whether general or specialized, should be trained for this: how to enter a tense room, how to stabilize stakeholders, how to communicate what is known and unknown, and create order without posturing as the technical expert. Second, replace placement first conditioning with work readiness as the primary outcome. The goal cannot be only get placed, it has to be operate effectively from day one. That means running meetings, coordinating cross functional teams, writing updates which are very crisp and succinct, handling escalations, making hard trade offs, and doing all this while maintaining the professional decorum. A good resume may open the door, but the first meeting tells everyone who has walked in the organization. And this is where many new MBAs struggle when they start, MBA graduates struggle when they start working with engineers, doctors, lawyers, or faculty, because they have practiced case answers, not operational judgment. So, unless and until a proper apprenticeship, a proper internship on the field work has happened, things are difficult. And as a result, as Professor Saji was also pointing out, in the Western world, we have 2 year masters in management. An MBA is 1 year, where people have experience and they are able to make sense of where they went wrong, how this framework can make sense, how do I become better, and how do I apply in different settings despite being the same framework. How is it that I bring the nuanced thing when I'm working across industries and sectors? And I said three things. So the third one is replace simulated confidence with structured exposure to real stakes. Put these MBA graduates into environments where timelines are real, decisions have consequences, not just grade drops, and stakeholders are watching. So they learn accountability and context. That kind of exposure builds the muscle MBAs actually need. Staying steady, communicating responsibly, and coordinating action when situations are messy and incomplete. So, in the classroom, mistakes become learning, but in organizations, mistakes become email threads. So, if MBA education in India makes these shifts from performance to presence, from placement to practice, from simulation to consequence, and if it nurtures cultural intelligence, social intelligence, along with the IQ and the EQ, it will produce managers who are trusted with decisions, not just hired for potential. I rest my case again.
Okay, we'll take questions. Lakshmi Srinivas. She's saying leadership or domain skills are not taught in classrooms, but in branch operations and in the field. But most MBAs are placed in the corporate offices, thus making them neither good domain experts nor true leaders. What would you say?
Well, I think I agree with this opinion. I think not everything can be taught in a classroom. It's quite obvious that administration is something that actually um, is by doing, is by experience. So, particularly the domain knowledge or the ability to work in a particular sector or a particular organization which is operating in a particular sector can come ultimately by on the job experience. And that is the reason why organizations hire people who have a particular experience in a sector, not those who are having an MBA in a particular specialization. That is not enough, because work experience is what actually gives real footing, real life um, experience or expertise to handle problems to managers. So therefore, I think the question of how do they manage resources in a particular sector when they have done a general MBA, I think the simple, sweet and simple answer would be by doing, okay, by managing. Okay, so they have to be inducted into some organization. They have to learn the organization and its business by working with professionals there for some time. Okay, and there is no substitute for that on-the-job training, I believe. And that is why if somebody works in a particular sector, say 4 years, 8 years, and so on, we know people who are specialized in a particular sector. That is not by classroom training, but by sectoral, work experience. So I think um, many successful professionals, as we look across domains, have come up from the ground level by working in a particular sector consistently. I was reading the biography of Varghese Kurian, who is, of course, known as the milkman of India. So I was just curious to know how he actually became so specialized in a sector like milk, or milk production, like right from production to converting that into consumer products. He became the expert of the country. Was he trained? Did he do an MBA in that particular sector? He didn't. He's not an MBA. As I understand, he is an engineering graduate who got a job in that particular sector as an engineer. Okay, and over a period of time, he actually became an expert of that field. Okay, I think that is the way that actually the world works. Um, no MBA can be expected as one passes out as a domain expert. One has to start working and then build that expertise over a period of time. So I just said I agree with the one who asked the question.
Any other opinion?
I will add my point. As he rightly said, I agree with that question also. And the thing is, there is a saying also that a hungry man, if you feed with a fish, he will come again. If you teach him how to catch a fish, he will go and learn and live. So, such kind of things have to be demonstrated. And the kind of people are, the experts with whom you're making them to learn from, more than knowledge sharing, experience sharing is very, very important. So I would put it as experiential learning as the most important element of our learning system than learning from, uh, hypothetical cases and so on and so forth. So put the people on the executional front. So that's where even in operations we believe that execution is more than strategy. You may be having a lot of strategies, this, that, etc., but not all of them may fail. But still, how do you work or how do you execute at the end of the day matters. So all these skills, either you call it as domain skill or leadership or whatever it is, so you demonstrate that there was a solution to the problem rather than how much you know is more important. So that's my take on that. Right. Thank you.
I would like to add here, we need to also look at examples in the Western world where even the bachelor's 3 years program, there are some programs where one semester every year has to be experiential internship, where the entire 6 months a student spends, first finds out an internship for oneself, second, applies whatever has been learned in the first 6 months, and also tries to understand where is the interest going forward, where do I need to work? So if, for example, a student is planning to explore various things, is not able to make decision, may probably get into finance in the first year for the internship, see how it works, and if it's not working out, try the hands in another sector, another industry, of course, on the condition of getting an internship there. And then by the time they are in the final year, they are able to make a little bit of they do have a little bit of clarity as in where do I want to go ahead. And finally, the last internship that they do in term 6, that decides what next, whether they want to go do a master's in management or a general MBA or a specialized MBA. So it's not a debate about specialized and general. It's about, if a general MBA has to sustain, it cannot in the present format. It has to evolve. Whether we like it or not, change is the only constant. As Professor Venkat rightly pointed out, after COVID, a lot of things changed. Now, and also AI is not new, but the AI in the present form, the generative and further progressive AIs, what we are seeing around us now, it has to be used as a complementarity. And how is it that even the general MBAs evolve to remain relevant? Experiential learning may be one, more hands-on might be another, where it's not just grades, it's not just cracking a case in the classroom and answering, it's going and finding out where the shoe pinches. So activity or empathy by putting them into real life situations rather than talking of an Arvind Eye Care in the classroom. Can some of them, a group of them, visit Arvind Eye Care and talk to the real people and understand what's happening? So my take is not about this versus that. My take is about, even in the present format, I see a danger. But if we evolve, we still remain relevant, whether it is general MBA or a specialized MBA.
Okay, Siddeshwar Nagul. He's asking, professionals with niche skills generally deny hierarchy. How to influence without using authority? Can emotional intelligence play a role here? Because professionals in general are well versed with AI. Is it? Okay, I mean, the first part of the question, the first two questions, can someone answer?
Yeah, so professionals, what Mr. Nagul is saying, okay, yes, because obviously they are expert in their area, so they would obviously not like to be dictated as such. Then in that case, the manager has to play the role of a facilitator in easing their work, not beyond that. Definitely right, but I am not sure that uh, all professionals are well versed with the EI as such. It may vary with individual and in the context also. But yes, once, as Professor Deepa was saying and Professor Saji was saying, that more of that hands-on exposure, experience does add value to the MBAs who empathize with the situation on ground. For example, as I was mentioning in our organization, starting from Christmas onwards till around 31st January, we ensure students go to 2 to 3 cycles of exposure as a part of their on-job training. Because what happens is, from Christmas till 2nd of January, there is a huge footfall and lot of pressure on the retailers to achieve targets, to satisfy customers, to provide the best level of service. And similarly, around 14th and 15th, where Makar Sankranti and other functions are there, and finally 26th, around 26th January, when you have the Republic Day sale. So these 3 cycles actually give them exposure on how to handle these type of tight situations, which they would not have witnessed in a case study situation discussing in the class. So that empathy is what is required to understand how things operate in a very tight situation, especially when you are dealing with sectoral experts. How do they handle it?
Interesting, sir. Ramesh Prasad, it is
I
well
want to,
known
I
that
want to add, Kalyanji, I want to add one thing on
Go ahead,
this.
sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, for example, the corporate aspect, I work closely with the healthcare professionals, so I draw my examples from healthcare. as you rightly said, the uh, uh, niche expertise. Let us say, for example, in a corporate hospital or a high-end hospital, doctors want quality medicine, a specific brand, whereas managers looks at cost. What professionals looks at is, let us say, a medical professional looks at is the outcome of the treatment. Whereas managers, maybe let us say within quotes, non-medical experienced people, they go by substitutes that are possible, which can make the cost of care delivery as less as possible or meaningful as possible. So in this case, how do you convince at that level of decision making that which medicines have to be procured for that matter? So in that case, it requires a lot of balancing in terms of making the decisions. So that's all. I will stop there. So is this specialist right or a generalist right? Both are right. So again, that is the biggest problem in the management is, it is both are, it's like things are like two sides of the coin. Both are right. You have to justify that by looking at the customer particularly. A poor patient cannot pay for a brand X. He can still pay for brand Y. So those kind of flexibilities have to be included in those kind of quotations. I'll stop there.
Yeah. Can I make a point here?
Sure.
Yeah, I think the issue of technology also came up from, of course, the participants. And we see increasingly technologies like AI and recent technologies are playing a very important role in all sectors of business. And hence, managers should also be fairly well versed to take decisions about technology when they do MBA today. That is increasingly going to be important. And of course, somebody was suggesting managers already know AI and so on. I'm not sure about it because AI means different to different people. Uh, we say when we offer a course related to AI in IIT Madras or in our management institute, uh, the faculty or the instructor should know functionally how the algorithms work. Don't talk about things which you do not know. So there is always a danger in it. Because you may answer the first question, but you won't actually be able to take the second question. So I think a lot of learning, I think not the shallow learning, but little more functional knowledge of technology will be important for managers. And that is where our system, IT system, is playing an important role of making learning accessible online. So IIT Madras came out with an online BS program in data science, which is hugely benefiting working professionals, both tech as well as management professionals, because at some point they need data science today. They need AI today. They need to either take decisions or they need to use those tools and techniques. Where do they learn? Okay, so they can't actually go back to an engineering school to learn, but they also need to learn technology from an application point of view, not purely technology from a design point of view. So that is where I think online learning is going to complement MBA programs or managers. So increasingly, there will be more shift towards learning online, learning as you work, crediting courses, crediting even full programs, which will benefit MBAs to complement their tech knowledge, which will be a very critical knowledge as we go forward. So this is an additional point I want to make. We stress on sectors, but tech itself is a sector, and that is now leading a lot of business and business decisions. And hence, this is also going to be an important discussion.
Yeah. Adding to this point, as you already know, that IIMs are very responsive, and in fact, IIM Lucknow is on forefront. We just recently launched our blended MBA, and the demand is also significantly better. I would say the first program itself. So, as in line with what Saji mentioned, that there is a demand for blended programs, we have responded to that as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. We just started an online BS in management and data science. So undergraduate program, so these are all open programs. The courses can be credited by anyone. One can do the full program. So this is sort of this will complement. I'm not saying that it will substitute MBA, but MBAs will require a lot more skills today to manage. One way to gain that will be through online programs.
Yes, we did have a webinar on blended courses. But good point about Saji. There was a question coming about online, whether that is going to increase or make this specialization, facilitate specialization at the MBA level. But you sort of addressed that. Now we move on. We have Ramesh Prasad. He's asking, it is well known that multiple functional expertises, is there plural, related to a business firm is taught through core and elective courses as part of MBA curriculum. Propose the context assumes utmost relevance while managing the firm, and context/environment is shaped by the domain's sectoral professionals. Is there a need to provide the students with sectoral know-how through well-designed study tours to tech, medical, agri, public sector, and security institutions to gain professional sensitivities? Which our panelist brought up. I mean, he said how at the crunch time and all the holiday season, big discounts, retail is under tremendous stress, and they send their students something like that. But anyone else has anything to say on this?
Yeah, I guess experiential tours and other immersion programs is what this person is hinting at. In fact, I would like to give a little view on the previous question and then connect it with this. Well, the question was with regard to EQ, whether that is enough. Is a proper high level of emotional quotient enough to for an MBA to manage other professionals? Well, I have already pointed out earlier, IQ and EQ have been talked about, and people are working on it. Now we need to focus on our SQ and CQ, that is the social intelligence and the cultural intelligence, because not just technology. This is a time, this is an era where we have multi-generational workplaces, and at least 4 different generations are working at the same workplace. And how is it that one of these generations have become a sandwich generation where the boss is from one generation and the people reporting to them are from different? So how is it that the words manage, control, deal with are out of the vocabulary now? What remains is leverage. And so talking about EQ, having a good EQ is definitely a good thing. But we need to also start talking about about the cultural quotient and the social quotient, because in inclusive workplaces where diversity is not just in terms of gender, in terms of different age groups, different backgrounds, we need to learn to be sensitive while dealing with people, and all the more so, especially when we are not experts in the domain. So yes, and then combining it with the next question is, yes, immersions do help. Since we are all talking about what our individual institutions have done, I would definitely like to highlight what we do for our LSM students in terms of the rural immersion and the international immersion. International immersion is quite, international exchange is quite common amongst most of the institutes. The immersive experience is where the difference is, where they just not indulge in having classroom sessions, but they do classroom sessions in a unique way, as in they would go to a Rome museum and do classes on museum management. So that gives that uniqueness, adds the flavor of museum management, rather than sitting in the classroom and talking about how museums are to be managed. Similarly, talking about rural immersion, while it's good to talk about social enterprises, the ESGs are there, and we are also talking about entrepreneurship. What does it really happen when people go to the rural places and look at the workstations of people working there in those small industries? So our students go and stay amongst the villagers in either a school of like facility or something, not a hotel or a guest house, where they live with them. They start their life right from the morning. They also work on projects on the way. So, yes, the answer to the second question is without immersion, without dirtying your hands, you can't just make a clay pot. You can't learn swimming without jumping into the river. So, yeah, definitely that's required. And more innovation is the norm of the day.
Okay, Ajay Kumar Dubey in an organization, he is giving
Can I
a.
add? Can I add one
Go ahead,
point
sir.
on public sector based learning? So
Yes.
I work closely with the bureaucrats and of course non-bureaucrats also from public sector, and the kind of learnings that the students have is immense, and we end up seeing most of the at least IIM MBA students, they end up joining the consulting firms. The most wanted jobs are consulting firms, and even in the banking sector, some public funds management, etc. So they are able to know what are the specific things that they should learn while they are on the campus. And of course, that is leading to multiple internships. For example, between first year and second year, there is an internship. And after that, also, the many students, if not all, at least significant number of students are interested to work with some of these experts or those who are helping them to learn better. So that is also helping in a big way. So certainly, I would say that the to study tours, not only study tours, working closely with those organizations after the study tour also matters a lot. Thank you.
True.
Okay, Ajay Kumar Dubey, he's saying he's giving a case study, I suppose, in an organization. It's anonymous, but he's saying in an organization, a newly joined MBA manager was assigned to lead a team of highly experienced technical professionals. Despite strong academic credentials, the manager quickly faced resistance. Team members felt he was overconfident, issued instructions without fully understanding the technical realities, and showed insufficient respect for their expertise. Gradually, the team began to avoid him, affecting collaboration and outcomes. So he's saying formal authority fails when credibility is missing. And how can MBA education address this? So is specialization the way to go? Is having enough domain expertise the way to go for MBA?
Well, I would like to answer this. So, the point here is again, without going into the domain specific and the general MBAs, I would simply like to reiterate that no matter what MBA a person has done, it does not make you inhuman. It does not ask you to be aggressive, right? While assertiveness and empathy have become the norms, like the key words of every MBA, not many MBA graduates are taught how to activate empathy, how to be assertive. In fact, I very often get surprised when people say that uh, whenever they try to be assertive, they are called aggressive. The reason is aggression and assertiveness are not the same. You can be assertive along with being compassionate. You can be assertive, empathetic, kind, and compassionate all at the same time. Just because the definition is not clear does not mean these words are not good. So, to answer Ajay's question, what is missing here is the interpersonal skills. The MBA is not to be blamed here. What is required is the presence is missing, the ability to show up is missing in these individuals. Because while it is good to have a framework and work on a PPT, that framework has to be tailored according to a particular situation when it comes to real life. As my colleague has already said, one size doesn't fit all, which means you need to personalize, you need to make it like tailor it as per the requirement. And unless that happens, because in every organization, there is a moment when something is going to go wrong. There will be uncertainty, there will be pressure, there will be consequences. And people who are stuck in all this, they are looking for someone who is going to show up. Not the person with the best framework or strategy. The person who brings calm, clarity, and respect for what cannot be compromised. So again, quoting Peter Drucker, culture eats strategy for breakfast, unquote. So the moment you work on culture, these things are taken care of. So I guess it's largely on working on the culture rather than blaming an MBA for all this.
Deepaji, I can't stop. You cannot copy culture. I'll add one more thing.
Sorry,
I
sorry,
tell that in
sorry.
my formal classes also that South has a culture, North has a culture. You should understand that culture and behave. I'll
Yeah,
stop here
that's
and
good. Yeah, culture eats strategy, and that is
yes.
the reason you need to work on your culture, the culture of the organization, and that's where I also mentioned earlier cultural intelligence, where cultural intelligence is more about knowing my receiver. Now, our students don't want to listen. Listening empathetically is the need of the hour. Listening actively is the need of the hour. Why do we not listen? Because we lack clarity, and because we lack clarity, we say what we want to, not what the audience wants, the receiver wants to hear. So in fact, many of us also deviated from the question right from the beginning. We started with what we wanted to say without focusing on what Kalyan wanted us to. So the moment we got that clarity, we all got streamlined into the webinar and flew like the river.
Yes.
Okay, MBA with Sunil Srivastava. We'll take two more questions. MBA with expertise in particular domain will significantly address the pain areas and resolve many problems. However, the actual problem is why the student chooses this course and what is the motive behind this. If the reason, this goes back to what Bimtek, our professor, was saying that they are choosing this. That's it. It's your livelihood. You better do it. And what is the motive behind this? If the reason is only livelihood, then they're not focused on any specific domain. It has to be initiated by the industry leaders and colleges. Provide synergistic course options focusing on specific domains.
Yeah, definitely, sir. That's what I was saying. Means from day one, that hand holding from the industry leaders have to be there, and that feel of the ecosystem in which they want to move further in their career, that is very crucial for them. And it is for the institute to actually facilitate or help that student being ingrained in that particular ecosystem where that student can learn fast and move along very fast. At the end of the day, sir, I would also like here to mention that for an MBA, whether it is a domain or general, what is the one common denominator in all this would be that whether you are a good and a fast learner or not. And to supplement to what Professor Deepa was saying, that requires that you should approach every issue with an open mind.
Yes.
So if that happens, then you would be able to imbibe the criticalities of any domain in a short span of time. That is there.
So can I add one more point on this? The courses that have been chosen, for example, is again with respect to IIM system. I want to choose an elective A, and there are bidding points, or rather there is a limitation on number of students in that section. I was not getting, so I am forced to take some other elective, so which I have a second option. So when you choose elective or a course which is not your first priority, maybe sometimes these kind of things can happen, but I don't know what is the perfect solution for that. But still you can make it, if you cannot get what you want, but make right what you got. That's very important.
Okay, Anup Ramachandran had a question about online MBAs, but we did deal with it substantially. Aishwarya Arya, where to Gopal Reddy? Well, that's a conclusive question. What kind of skills this is how we started? What kind of skills are needed for MBA graduates to manage other professionals, and how management institutions are giving training to obtain these skills for their graduates? We've dealt with it, but is there anything else to say or something succinctly you
So
want to say?
let me take the lead on this question.
Sure, sure.
Because traditionally, you might have seen in Indian MBA, particularly IIM admissions, that GDPI was there. I hope many of you may be
Basically, sir,
knowing
what
how.
MBA has to be basically a facilitator to help in the ease of doing their professional work. Means rather than focusing on the nitty gritties, because the professional knows how things are to be done. What is I feel the MBAs as a facilitator should ensure that they should focus on the outcome. How that outcome is to be achieved, leave it that to the professionals. Let them do it.
So can I continue? So what we did at one point in time, as I was as admission chair at IIM Indore, we felt that when you talk about this group discussion, there was a chaos, and we were not able to assess what we want. Then equal opportunity to everyone. We introduced this something called a written ability test. That's where from 2010 onwards in the entire country, that GD was replaced with VAT. We may debate, which one is correct and which one is wrong. I am not into that. But the change is very important, and the writing skills are much more important than the verbal skills, etc. That was the idea. So similarly, when you come into the program, I would say that based on, since I teach operations and supply chain management courses, we need the data analysis skills particularly. MBA is not just a skill-based course. MBA is a skills and knowledge and perspective. All the three are very important, complementary to each other. So I would say that you need good skills, like for example, analytical skills, communication skills, and including the way you deal with the interpersonal skills and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, you should be able to make things happen. So that's what I would call it as a knowledge and perspective. So these things have to be imbibed through appropriate exercises and whatever you can call, and debates or discussions or case method and etc. etc. Those are the skills I would say that these are must, and it's not a peripheral, but you have to ground them very well. Whatever you do it with rigor. That's very important.
I would like to
Okay.
add here. I would like
Okay.
to add. So you have started a topic which is very, very close to our hearts. So we all want to speak a lot.
Sure.
And while the panelists are talking, a lot of churning is happening. So I would like to add here that when MBAs also follow the learning teaching model, where they play the role of a bridge, a facilitator, because there will be experts on team, there will be experts in organizations, there will be experts versus non-experts, domain specialists versus non-specialists. What is it that a manager does in order to bridge the gap between the experts and not so experts? So that is where the learning teaching model becomes very important, where these managers need to learn to facilitate people to dial down dominance and dial up engagement, where this bridge called the manager works on getting the work done in an amicable, most responsible, integral way, rather than keeping resolving conflicts forever. So, first, the team has to be made, in fact, empowered enough to work on their own skill of dialing up engagement and dialing down dominance. If they are unable to do so, the manager's role becomes very important. So, whether it's a general or a special MBA, if you are able to use this particular teaching learning model to your benefit, you generally succeed. That is my take on it. Along with this, as Professor Venkat said, yes, analytical skills very important, communication skills very important. Above all, I mentioned earlier and I reiterate, clarity of mind. Without that, nothing will work. You will not be able to listen with an open mind. You'll not be able to analyze anything. You'll only be applying your own lenses, your own filters, your own biases while absorbing. So start with clarity of mind, clarity of thought. So your inner leads to your outer, not the other way. So on a lighter note, I would say working on the icing is not enough. The cake has to be tastier as well. So the content and the delivery, both are equally important.
Okay, the best questions are coming in, but we need to wind up. But I will pose two questions and then wind up with that. Aishwarya Arya, she's asking, should MBAs should have a minimum literacy of multiple professions instead of trying to get domain knowledge? just get a sense of all the professions out there, or as many professions as you want to. Minimum literacy, she's saying. Bhargav MB, he's asking, okay, what's the dividing line between domain expertise to manage experts and that needed to become a domain expertise? How much of healthcare? I mean, I believe you can be an accountant and still become a healthcare manager, but how much domain expertise do you need to manage to or to become one? And is the way
I'll
to go
start with
minimum
this. I'll
literacy?
start. Yeah,
Achha,
manager
both.
can never become a medical doctor. A medical doctor
True, true,
become.
true.
This. You don't try to be. See, this is what a jack of all. You cannot be a successful person by becoming jack of all. You learn one, two, three things, or max four things. Then try to excel in that, and then demonstrate. Let your action speaks rather than how much you know. Business or real world does not require how much you know. How much you have contributed is very important. For example, a doctor who can manage their patients very well and their organization operations very well, he will become a better doctor than just a simple specialist doctor. Similarly, how much a manager can get to know about medicine? It is impossible. You have been trained on A, you cannot become B. I am sorry to use this example of unwanted example. So now there is a the gender transformation also. So you can't be expert in everything. So restrict to be what you are. An engineer plus manager, enough. A medical plus manager, that's okay. There is no end how many things you want to do. You end up becoming a joker of all. I'm sorry to say that. Sorry, I'm stopping here.
Okay. So these two
Okay,
questions: minimum literacy and how much is for
I
managers?
would,
How much
yeah, I
domain?
would actually start, like, in fact, conclude this entire thing with where I started. I used two words, integrator and system builders. So where I talked about how an MBA is will be able to manage the other professions is not by learning each and every profession. That's not possible. That's not doable, right? So we need to understand that no matter how much we discussed, the MBAs are going to manage other professionals, and that is where the question was: how is it? How should they manage? What is the ideal way? And that's where I started with the two words integrator and system builders. Where you say integrator, they connect business goals with professional standards, and they are aligning people around shared outcomes. They are not getting into the work, but they are, in fact, they are not telling experts what to do. But at the same time, they are discussing what are the non negotiables. They are involving the experts in decision making so that it becomes a win win for the organization. Where is the real risk? While an MBA would have done a risk analysis, but when you involve a domain specific, an expert in the risk analysis, you get a better perspective. What is quality for you? So it might mean for you as an MBA, but as an expert, what does the person understand by quality? What is the evidence which can change our decisions? So the moment you become inclusive, you don't need to be experts in everything. Despite having an MBA and not a domain specific thing, when you involve people, when you include people in setting the right decision path, robust processes result, fair incentives a result, and there is a collaboration that happens rather than dictation. So it has to be assimilation rather than saying, because I'm a manager, I'm an MBA, I'm going to deal with this. Well, no, even if you try, you may not give 100% result. But when you are inclusive, you definitely do better because you are not a domain expert there. So again, I was talking about managerial accountability is fine, but if it goes hand in hand with professional humility, no matter who you are managing, they will be able to work with you. You need to have the guts to say as a manager, see, I'm not going to do your job. You are an expert, I value you. But I also have the accountability that I do own outcomes, I do own alignment, and I do own trade offs. And because I own this, we need to work hand in hand. It is not one versus the other, it is being complementary.
All right. If other panelists don't have anything to say on this, we can wind up here. We did have a wonderful session. We started with a question and then dealt with so many nuances We had really good questions, really good insights from panelists. So, in sum, I would say it would seem that the traditional MBA is, I won't say it's on its way out, but it has to transform. There will be a role for specialized institutions like IIM, but also you see how IIT is coming up with its own, it's sort of taking it off in another direction. So, MBAs are going to be much more diverse. There's going to be more domain knowledge, requirement of domain knowledge, enough to maintain or manage domain experts. With that, we close this discussion. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
inviting me.
Thank you, Mr. Kalyanji, for a wonderful session, and my fellow panel members as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Pankaj and Professor Venkat.